All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. I love the conversations, but we've got some amazing stuff happening this evening. Last night we had our first ever Annual Banquet, and I'm here to tell you, you all are in for a treat. Those of you who were with me last night at the banquet, I think we can all attest. What an amazing night. We got to hear some amazing stories, got to hear some great ministry updates, and we got to feel the Spirit of God moving in our midst. And I'm excited for how the Spirit is going to move tonight. You know, as I think about all of the different things that happen, I'm just constantly amazed at how many lives we've changed, how many lives God has saved through our ministry. You know, and I get to stand up here and kind of be excited about things, but there's a group of people that I want you all to meet, and you've met some of them, but I'm going to ask the following people to please stand. I'm not going to read their names or anything, except for a couple of them. But because their names are in the program. But if you are part of the Options Board of Directors, would you please stand at this time? We need to show some appreciation. From the bottom of my heart, I thank each one of you for your service to Options for Women, for putting up with the way I run the meetings. I know sometimes you're regretting your choice of president, and that's all right. We're still going to have fun with it. Thank you truly for all that you do for Options for Women. But as important as those board of directors are, there's a few other people that are even more important. If you are a coach, a receptionist, an ultrasound nurse, or a baby boutique worker, please stand. That group of people is really the group of people that make the ministry happen. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate it. I mean, it's amazing what you do. And thank you. That's all I can say is thank you. A couple other people I want to introduce you to. And you know them, but our client services director, and she's new this year, but Carmen Gam. Where's Carmen hiding at? There we go. And our office manager, Lori Fouch, way in the back. And not to throw Lori under the bus, but she was my cue that we needed to do something about the heat. Because I'm sitting at my, yeah, amen. Yeah. I'm sitting at my my table, and I look back, and I'm just looking around, and there's Lori back there with this massive fan just fanning herself, and I wanted to go take the fan from her. There's one more guy, and he told me I'm not supposed to talk much about him, but I'm going to say a little bit. If you guys don't know Paul, you've been asleep at all of these things. If you don't know Paul, you've been asleep at any time there's been anything that's pro-life in our region. I don't think we could ask for someone that's a better advocate for the unborn, and for those that desperately, desperately need us to stand up for him. For them. He's a cheerleader for the pro-life movement. He's a champion for everything that we do. He's my friend, and he's an amazing executive director. So with that, Paul Bruner.
Oh, no. Sit down. Sit down. I didn't deserve half of that, but anyway, I'll take it. No, it's all by the grace of God. It's a great team. Martin introduced you to a lot of them, but isn't it good to be together? There've been this last year has been such a crazy year, hard year in a lot of ways. We've all been impacted by COVID one way or the other. We've lost loved ones. We've lost family members. There have been repercussions from that. We've had a new administration, and that administration, unfortunately, advocates a lot of policies that are anti-life. They're pro-death. We've also had increased censorship. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but a couple of real-life examples of that come very close to home to the pro-life movement is you may or may not have heard of abortion pill reversal, but it's a valid medical procedure where if a woman has taken the first abortion pill, if she gets progesterone soon enough, within 72 hours, they can actually save that baby if she doesn't take the second pill. And so far, to our knowledge, at least 2,500 lives have been saved. 2,500 infants that were in the process of being aborted have been saved. But guess what? Big tech says, big tech, big government, they say, oh, that's fake science. That's fake medicine. Well, guess what? Tell those 2,500 kids that their life is fake. I'm sorry, but it's real. So anyway, but another way that we've seen that is Facebook. A lot of what we do to reach our clients is on Facebook. And one of the things that we've had to do, because they are so, pick your word, but they are so evil, really, in what they do, that we have to watch out what we do with words. And so what we've done, and this is something, it's not unique to us, but throughout the pregnancy help movement, that we embed the words in an image. And so when Facebook goes to screen it, they just see an image. They don't see the words. Ask Lori Fouch. She's always playing this cat and mouse game with Facebook and trying to get our ads through, and sometimes we still have problems with it. But anyway, so that's kind of some of the negative that's happened this past year. But on the bright side, God continues to advance his kingdom. And one of the big things that happened this last year was back in January, our board voted to begin to pursue a center in Hannibal. They took a big step of faith to do that. But you talk to them, and you'll find out that they really believe that this is what God was leading them to do. If you look at page 5 of your program, you don't have to, but that's where all the statistics are. And, the statistics can be a little bit dry, but each of those numbers represents a person. There's a life. There's a name behind that. And so just looking at statistics really doesn't do it justice. But, in the last year, we've seen a 30% increase in the women and men that we've served, from last year. 30% is a pretty big jump in the people that we're serving. Now, we hate needing to serve them, but we're glad they're coming to us rather than the alternative. Also in this past year, one of the bright sides is we've seen a doubling of the men that we're seeing. Now, again, men are tough. As hard as it is to minister and reach the women, men are even harder. But we are beginning to make inroads. Bob Wells here has sort of been championing the men and what we do for them. But honestly, I was thinking about this parable, and you all are going to be familiar with it. But it wasn't a parable, actually. It happened. Christ healed 10 lepers. You know how many of them came back? One. One came back to give thanks and to give God the glory. All 10 of them were healed. All 10 of them had experienced something good, but only one of them came back. And that's the reality. We get probably a little bit more than 1 out of 10 that come back. But still, the reality is that we sow a lot of seeds that don't come back. And so, or at least that we get to see the fruit of. So, it can be a thankless ministry in some ways. So, let's see. All right. Like I said, they're not just numbers on a page. They are people, they're real life, and that's why we're here. We're here to touch people for God, to make a difference in them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carol Adams. She's a board member, life coach, and she's going to tell you about one of the lives that we got to touch, actually 2 lives that we touched this past year.
I ask for God's grace to be able to share this story. And by His grace, I can. But first, I want to say what a privilege it is to be a part of the staff of Options for Women. The people that I work alongside are amazing. Each person functions in the realm of their gifting, and yet we're all like-minded with a mission for touching, changing, and even saving lives. It's an incredible work, and it's all for the advancement of the kingdom and to His glory. Each one of the coaches at Options have stories to tell of how God has used them. The testimony that I'm about to give of this young lady's pregnancy is an amazing story and somewhat unique. Paul asked me to share this story. I'll call the girl Mary. It's an assumed name for the sake of client confidentiality. Mary sent a message to Options on August 20th, 2020 at 10:58 p.m. Bear with me. The question Mary had goes as follows. I'm 14 weeks pregnant. I want to know if getting an abortion is an option. Immediate contact was made with the girl, who, by the way, lived in Illinois. Being vitally important, Mary was asked if she would agree to come to the center to talk. An appointment was made for the following day, which Mary ultimately canceled. As a coach, a life coach, the disappointment and sadness is intense. The immediate recourse we have is to pray for God to step in and do what only He can do, which is touch hearts. I can't say this happens every time, but I remember hearing an almost audible voice as I was praying for Mary. I opened the door. Don't close it. Well, that's all I needed to follow through with this young lady. She was on the verge of making a decision that could shatter her life, plus take the life of another who couldn't speak for themselves. Fast forward, the messages continued to Mary. She never agreed to come to Options, and yet I still saw the door as open. She would always respond to my messages and even expressed appreciation for them. I didn't ask a lot of questions about her personal life. I simply showed compassion and love, just as Christ would have me do. The only thing Mary shared at a personal level, and boy, this hit me being a grandmother, was that her mother had said to her, I will not have a part in killing my grandchild. Weeks went by. Mary was still asking about abortion procedures. Meanwhile, that helpless little life was growing. Mary had told me there were concerns regarding the pregnancy, and she had seen many doctors. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I just continued to reach out to her with encouragement. There was always an immediate response back. Then, on the 3rd of September, I got an amazing message from Mary stating, I've decided to keep the baby. I find out the gender of the baby on October 9th. No explanation was given, simply that she had made that decision. She was between 20 and 21 weeks pregnant by this time. The response to Mary was sheer excitement and jubilation, as well as expressing the blessing she would receive for making this decision. The tears flowed, not only by me, but the whole option staff. We were a basket case. That is, after there were shouts of joy expressing thanksgiving to God for his faithfulness. The following message came on January 8th of this year, and I quote, these are Mary's words. I was told I would get induced the 25th of this month. I'm getting nervous, but more excited than anything. I will definitely send you pictures. I have been treated great. I appreciate everything you guys have done. Just texting and checking up on me means a lot. Being so involved is the best. Feels like family and how you guys care so much. I have grown a bond over this length of time we've talked. I enjoy seeing a text. And she said, God put you in my life for a reason. I can't thank you enough. It's hard to meet people like you in the world today. That was the end of her quote. Again, all we can say is thank you, God. It was on January 29th of this year that we got that incredibly exciting news, and here she is. If you can't see her, baby Rachel came into the world. We received numerous pictures of a beautiful baby girl. Again, the tears flowed. The new baby gifts were sent to Mary, and the messages have continued. The last message that we received was a babe and picture we received. I'm sorry, I can't see, it's dark. Thank you, Steventhen. Was of baby Rachel, now at 8 months old. Mary shared in detail in that message the love she has for baby Rachel and how she has, quote, changed her life. In that same message, Mary had this to say. This was amazing. She said, for this to be shared with the options staff, for any clients that may be contemplating abortion. She offered explaining her story to those clients and how she was challenged with an unplanned pregnancy. She wanted to offer encouragement to those women and even offered her contact information to anyone who might want to talk with her. How amazing is that? Mary is now completing her education to be a teacher. She states, I love teaching and I love being a mom. I can't see my life any other way. As I said in the beginning, this story's unique. We have yet to meet Mary, and yet I feel I know her. The coach's role at Options is unique. Each person is unique as well as each story and circumstance unique. When the doors are open, the Options staff is there to usher them through. As we pray each morning, we recognize Options for Women as God's work, and our total dependency is on Him. He knows each story. We at Options are humbled to be a part of His work, equipped by the Holy Spirit and simply walking in obedience to His word.
Thanks so much, Carol. I know that was hard for you, but we are blessed to hear. It's always encouraging to hear those stories of life, isn't it? You know, I can't get tired of hearing those. You know, your support is what makes it possible to do that. You make a difference in what you do for us. to the Marys of the world, to the baby Rachels. What you do here is a vital, vital part of making that happen. Your financial support, of course, is a huge part of that. I wish it didn't take dollars, but it does take dollars to do this. You know, I was going to say something a little sooner, and I got a little rattled, but just to give you an update on the banquet last night, our early tally looks like $41,000 was raised there. So, thank you, Lord. And we hear rumors that more's coming. So, anyway. But your time support as volunteers is vital. You know, we couldn't do what we do without all the volunteers. Probably at any given time, we have 20 women that are part of what makes Options for Women go and grow. And yes, we do need more. So if the Lord happens to tug on your heart a little bit, and we train for all those positions, the receptionists, the life coaches, the ultrasound nurses, the baby boutique workers, all of those people that's what, like they said earlier, that's what makes Options for Women go. But you know, in addition to that, and especially, it's your prayer support. Now, you may not think that's a big deal, but it's a huge deal. This is a spiritual warfare that we're in, and we're battling for people's lives. It's all by the grace of God, and it's by His power, but it's still a battle. And so we appreciate your prayer support. One of the things you'll find on the table, there's a little slip of paper, and I'll tell you about this slip of paper. We are part of a software called HopeSync, and HopeSync is designed specifically to send short videos, 1, 2, 3 minutes long, to abortion-minded women on whatever the hot button topic is in their life at the time that we're contacting them. And a part of HopeSync also allows us to send an immediate text. The life coach, as she's interacting with an abortion-minded, abortion-vulnerable woman, she can send out a text at that moment, and you all can participate with us at that moment in time by lifting her and the coach up to God in prayer. If you would like to be a part of this team, fill out this little piece of paper. There's a box, I believe, up at the table, the resource table. Where do we have that box again? Okay. All right. So maybe give it to one of the ladies, the registration table. An orange basket. Okay. So this is, believe it or not, this is one of the hugest things you can do for us, is pray with us. But we have to have your permission to do that. So that's why we got this slip. It's one of those little legal things that we have to deal with. But, you know, lastly, this is going to be maybe a fun and hard part of the time, but this is a very special time in the program to me. I want to recognize a very special person. They've been with us from the beginning, even for the beginning through Pike County Pro-Life. They were a life coach. She was an ultrasound nurse, a board member. And if I can turn the page. Where are your fingers when you need them, right? But always an encouragement. Even recently, she gave me a bookmark, and she might not have thought it was a big deal, but on that bookmark was a verse, and it was so appropriate. I mean, she knew about what God was leading to do in Hannibal, and listen to this verse. It says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the desert." It's from Isaiah 43:9. And so she's always been an encouragement to me, and I think she's been an encouragement to everyone else that has worked with her. So let's see, in the shadows here. And, you know, as a footnote, I want to share this with you guys. Hannibal wouldn't be happening without you all. You are a testimony. The strength of the pro-life community in this room is what is sort of the launching pad for making Hannibal possible. And so I think it's just a tremendous testimony to what God has done right here, the foundation that He has built right here. So, I mean, that like I said, that was sort of a side note. But, I thought about the parable of the Good Samaritan, and it's sort of funny. All these, the person that got hurt was a Jew, and the person that helped out was a Samaritan. It was somebody of a totally different race, different people, despised, whatnot. But, I think as people involved in the pro-life movement, we're kind of like that. In a way, we are people that we see we see a need, we're moved, and we act. And I think each person that's involved in the pro-life movement in a very real way is a good Samaritan. But you know what? Eleanor Warner has been a true example of that. We'll miss her as she moves back to Indiana to be with family, to be closer to family. God bless you, Eleanor. We love you and appreciate you.
I'm not sure how to follow any of that. Because, wow. Paul talked about just how we have made an impact, but it's through God's grace and everything that he's done. One of the things that I regretted about last night was that I didn't get a picture of everybody. And so I'm going to get a picture of all of you. We're going to do this selfie style. So you might end up on Facebook, just saying. Yeah, there we go. All right, you ready? Yeah, perfect. I love it. Yes. Okay, sorry, we had to have a picture. Thank you guys so much again for being here tonight. What an amazing, amazing night. Again, thank you to all of our volunteers who give so much of themselves, whether it's our coaches or it's Heather and all of that group that has the pregnancy loss support group, whether it's the guys that step up to help the men. If you want to be a part of any of those things, make sure to touch base tonight with any of our board members. Touch base with Paul, find me, because we can't do it without you. So now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, and you are in for a treat. I said last night at Hannibal that I don't have to come today. I get to come and hear him. Yeah, I'm putting you on a pedestal, brother. But that's all right. I know your heart, and I'm just going to bring him up here. Steventhen has been an amazing pro-life advocate, a worship leader, a songwriter, a speaker, local, national, all over the place. I'll let him tell you his recent travel, but man, he makes me tired just listening to his travel. Steventhen.
Well, howdy, y'all. It's off. There we go. I like to be a little free, if that's okay with you all. Move a little bit. I'm gonna get the y'all out of the way because I'm from Alabama. Well, originally from Tennessee, the Chattanooga area, but we live. My wife Rachel and our three daughters. Rachel and I have been married for 15 years. Our three girls, Isabella, Eliana, and Cadence, in that order: 14, 11, and 8. All right. Notice I didn't mention any men other than me. So it's just swimming in that estrogen ocean all the time. But yeah. So again, I've been blessed to sit at a table with two pastors here locally. We've been talking about a lot of ministry, but I'm blessed to. I have a nonprofit ministry called Broken Not Dead Ministries. So we get to travel all over the country and bring hope and restoration built on the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's what I get the pleasure of doing most of the year. But then there's about 4 months out of the year where I get to stand on stages like this and champion life. And it's probably one of the greatest honors that I've had in my life to be able to do that. And I'm just going to say tonight, I'm a storyteller, right? So I'm going to be sharing my story with you, but I want to pause for a second before I do that and say this. I'm blessed and honored to be able to share my story, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to champion and honor this amazing organization that you all are blessed to have. Let's give it up for all of the leadership of Option for Women. They literally are on the front line doing frontline battle work. Because I think Paul alluded to this. He said that we're, I don't know how you said a battle, but I said we're in a war, right? We are truly in a fight for life. And these people are standing on the front lines fighting for that every day. And I just want you to know, community, I know you know this, but sometimes it's good to be reminded by, the person you've never met before can give you a different perspective. I get to travel. I've done, this will be my 13th speaking engagement this month alone. I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, it's cold, y'all, there, and went to Eugene, Oregon. Then I'm in Texas, and by the grace of God, I've kind of kept my health. So I head to Grand Rapids, Michigan in the morning at 5:20. So I out of St. Louis, be 2 more speaking engagements in Austin, New Mexico, and then Kentucky. Then I get to spend time with my family. I haven't been home since October 10th, all right? But with all that being said, don't feel sorry for me. What I'm saying is I wouldn't rather be any other place than right here, though, tonight, because I believe that it's worth the fight. So I'm going to ask you guys just this question. Is it worth the fight? All right, look, my dramatic pause was on purpose because I heard a lot of amens. I saw head shaking, right? And some of y'all are, about to have a Pentecostal moment right there, right? Like, yes, it's worth it. But here's the thing. I'm going to challenge you here in a minute, because the thing is, Sir Edmund Burke says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I'm not yelling at you, but I want this tone. I'm going to challenge you here in a minute, right, to get behind the words that you just said. If it's truly worth the fight, as far as I'm concerned, if it's worth it to me, I'm going to make time, right, for whatever that cause is, whatever that action is. I'm going to give them my talents, right? I'm going to give to that, whether it be like for here, volunteering. You've heard there's needs. There's men in the room. I'm a man, right? We need to step up, men, right? And I'm not yelling at you. I want to encourage you, right? If it's worth the fight, we need to get our hands maybe a little more dirty than what we have. And then there's treasures, right? We got to have these treasures, got to have resources. So that the main goal, obviously, tonight is to get behind financially and support this beautiful organization. But here's the question is, but why? So hopefully what I want to do is my story will maybe kind of give a different, a more powerful, possibly perspective on what the why is behind giving money to this organization, okay? That's my goal. So what is my story? When I was 8 years old, I was at school, and I had some friends come up to me and say, man, you're weird and different. And I'm like, okay, what's that mean? And they're like, you hadn't noticed that your family's white and you're not? And I look at my hand as an 8-year-old child, and for the first time in my life, they ain't lying. I'm brown. I had a little freak out moment. I was like, right? Like, what? I just thought I had a tan all year round. I didn't know, I didn't know. Because it had never come up in conversation, because it wasn't a matter of color. It was a matter of love, right? So obviously something's not right. So I come home, and I had a nosy mama. Anybody in here got a nosy mama that's just in your business all the time? Now, at 39 years old, a man, I've grown to know that my mom just loved me, and that's what it was. But as an 8-year-old, she's just in my business, right? So I just wanted to go to sleep that day, but I also will say this, if I'm being honest, that's the first time in my life I truly remember being broken, right? That's the first time in my life I truly remember asking God, why? Why do I have to be the wrong color, right? Now, I wasn't the wrong color, but that's what I heard. So my mom knew something was up, and she pulled me in real close that night before I go to bed, and I tell her what happened at school that day, and she pulls me in really close. It kind of got awkward, and she said, son, I love you. I want you to know that. And before I say anything, you are my son. You always have been. You always will be. I said, okay, Mom, what's going on? And she said, well, when you were 7 days old, we brought you into our home as a foster child. You were on the same bottle of formula you left the hospital with. As a matter of fact, when we got you from Human Services, they said that this child's probably going to die, but he needs a place to come, and be comfortable. So what we did is we brought you into our home. We said yes, and we squeezed milk into your mouth until you were strong enough to start sucking the bottle on your own. You might have been a little spoiled because we never put you down, right? We held you. As a matter of fact, I got a book over here that hopefully you bless me, get a copy tonight. It's $15. I can take check, cash, or card. Got to feed my family, so I'll just throw that in there. But no, seriously, to me, it's from my heart. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine who I'll share about later. But on page 36, as we're talking about family, I know you can't see this; it's a long way away, but I'm going to hold it up because this is a picture on page 36 of literally like one of the first days they brought me into the family. And my dad, the only earthly father I've ever known, actually, he worked in the coal mines. I thought he was black most of my life, but just saying. He'd come in and bathe, and he slept with his shirt off. So he would take this son of his that wasn't his blood and wasn't his color, and he would hold me on his chest, and that's how he would sleep. Because I was weak, and he didn't want me to. He wanted me to feel secure and safe. So he held his son. From day one, I was their son. So you see, here's the thing: love doesn't require DNA, right? So I'm finding this out as an 8-year-old. I told y'all, first time I remember being broken, though. Why do I have to be the wrong color? Why is this family not my blood, right? Here's the biggest one, though. Why would a mother not want her son? I would wrestle with that for many, many years. But as an 8-year-old child, that day is when it really started. And I really had this longing in my soul that I didn't even realize I had. But also, I'll share this because it's going to come back in the story. In the midst of all that, my mom had kind of paused, and she walked over to my closet in my bedroom, and she goes, in this box, she pulls out this 3-ring binder. And inside this 3-ring binder is some important information. There's 8 pages of typewriter paperwork. I was born on March 31st, 1982, okay? So there's my birth certificate, and then about literally 8 pages from Human Services that had my birth mom's name, Glenda Sue Holt, and then it had some other family member names. Now what was kind of weird was many of the last names of family members were all different. So that was kind of weird. I didn't know why. I mean, I'm 8 years old, and I'm looking at this. It also had in that journal, or in the, I gave it away, but also in that 3-ring binder was 250 pages or so of journal entries. So it was handwritten messages from many members of my family, but mostly my mom, over 5 years of my life. And they would take Polaroid pictures. Y'all remember? Got to shake those things out, right? And they would stick those in there. They glued them in with like Elmer's glue or something. Now, today, I still have it. It's like parchment paper, or something. It's old school. That's not right. Parchment paper. It's, what's that? Moses days. Like they wrote on that stuff. Parchment paper, what you cook with, right? But anyways, y'all get the drift. It looks like somebody poured coffee on it. So now it's a special treasure that I have. I've laminated all the pages. The pictures are faded. But it was actually truly a gift that I was receiving that I didn't realize how special it was until later in life. So she gives me this. I find out where I'm from. But I'm going to tell you again, it's the first time in my life I remember being broken, and I was struggling. I was hurting. I was angry. I was frustrated. All those emotions. But here's the thing, and we were talking about this at the table just a little bit ago. Sometimes we got to be broken to come to Jesus, right? I'm a man of faith, and I'm thankful. I'm not ashamed to say it, that in the midst of my brokenness as an 8-year-old child, I'd had a drug problem growing up early on. Maybe some of y'all had it like me, but every time the church doors were open, I was drug in and drug out. Yeah? Can I get an amen? Like, my family even cleaned the church. So we were there even when church wasn't church, right? And honestly, I was scared. The exit signs and, the red light shining in the sanctuary, I was like, flee, Satan. But anyways, I guess you had to be there to experience it. But I had that problem. So I knew the name of Jesus, but I didn't have a relationship with him. There's difference. But in the midst of my brokenness as that 8-year-old child, we were at a revival. Any of y'all ever been at a revival? Right? Brother Bob was preaching. Don't know his last name. I can't remember his last name, but I just know whatever it was good. And I didn't even wait for him to give me an invitation to come to Jesus. I ran up during the middle of his sermon. And I'm literally on my knees at the altar just crying out because I'm broken and I'm hurting, and I've heard this man named Jesus can help me, can comfort me, but most importantly can save me. So as an 8-year-old child, I came to know Jesus. Now, I think the greatest math equation known to man is Jesus plus nothing equals everything. But if we're honest, that's a daily struggle. Every day. Is Jesus going to be enough today? Is Jesus going to be enough in this hour, in this minute, or this second? So for me, I think when they called me weird and different, it just stuck with me. And I didn't want to be called weird and different anymore, so I threw myself into Jesus plus sports, right? So I was in 7th grade, I was 200 none of your business pounds, okay? I was running fullback and middle linebacker. So here's the thing. If you call me weird and different, you know what's going to happen to you? Hopefully they recognize your body, you know? Then in high school, I went from earthquake to freight train. I was 200 some more none of your business. Still running fullback, middle linebacker. Any of the men in the room, maybe some of you ladies that like Pittsburgh Steelers, remember the bus? Jerome Bettis, he was like 280 pounds running. That was kind of like me. I outweighed the lineman by over 100 pounds, but I was running the ball, right? That's weird. I was a weird, built weird and weird guy, but nobody's going to call me different weird anymore. It's just not going to happen. So so what it was Jesus plus sports equals everything. So I had some scholarship offers, and I had a plan. Anybody ever had a plan, and then it's like, uh-oh, God gets a hold of it? So 1998, I'm 17 years old, and I had my first back surgery. I got hit in the back. I had 3 herniated discs and a pinched nerve. Literally, I had lost all my scholarships because basically the doctor said this is the worst back injury we've ever seen on a child this age. So they told my parents he can either walk or play football. Now, I'm 17 years old. You know what my answer was? I'm down. I'll be all right. Put me back in, right? But my parents were loving people and smart people. They said, no, I think he'd like to choose to walk. So my dreams were crushed. Lord, I thought you and I had a plan, right? I was going to be running through a checkered end zone, hearing this hound dog and this beautiful, y'all don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? University of Tennessee, okay? Volunteer, Tennessee fan through and through. I'm sorry, I've lost half my audience, but it's okay. But here I am. Anybody knows what I'm asking God? I'm laying in bed for 6 weeks trying to recover with a back injury at 17-year-old, and I'm asking God what? Why? There's a theme here. So I walk onto a campus in Bristol, Tennessee. Any NASCAR fans out there? We got one. That's usually how it works. I saw a small hand go up, maybe 20 times to Bristol. I'm sorry. No, it's good. No, it's a great place. Literally, this town survives on 2 weeks a year. For the NASCAR fans, they show up in droves, and the town just comes alive. But I went up there I actually majored in youth ministry, and I walked onto the baseball team and earned a scholarship and played for 5 years. It helped me pay my way through school. But it was a small little liberal arts school, and I just happened to, look, when you walk onto a college campus, it's kind of like you start noticing these beautiful creations that God made. It's like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before, right? So baseball team, and now here's the thing. I said this last night, I'll be honest. We had a Brazilian last night sitting at the table, so I was able to kind of make a connection. But there was a Brazilian volleyball player named Rachel that I was smitten for, right? But she had a roommate. Actually, no, that's my wife's name's Rachel. See, it's all about her. Her name was Heather, right? So I liked the roommate. I liked her, but then she started dating one of the baseball players, a teammate of mine, which I actually sang at their wedding. But that left me hanging out with her roommate, which is Rachel, who became my wife, right? So, she knows, and now it's kind of fun. Like when we go into the area now, we actually have 2 kids they've adopted, and our kids get to play together. It was just kind of funny how God works, right? He has a bigger and better plan. I married the right one, right? So Rachel and I, early on, even when we were dating, we started talking about what it would look like to start a family if we were to get married, right? We both were tired of playing games, and we decided this is what we want to do. So we get married in June 17th, got to get this date right, June 17th, 2006. And early on in our marriage, we decided we wanted to start trying to have kids. So our first pregnancy, 8 weeks in, I was actually a student pastoring at a church right down the road from where we lived. I went to service that morning to minister to the students, and while I was gone, she lost our baby at home by herself. So I'm a young husband, soon-to-be father. We're so excited about bringing our first baby into the world, and we lose our 8-week-old. You know what I'm asking God? What she's asking God? Why? This hurts. I didn't have answers. I didn't know what to say to her. It was a rough time. And then, so, we get through that season, that storm, and, obviously not unscathed. We're scarred and broken, but we get pregnant again. We're scared, but this time we have successful pregnancy. She's our 14-year-old Isabella today. She's a little singer-songwriter, piano player, leads worship with Dad sometimes. And then we have our third pregnancy. 10 weeks into the pregnancy, my wife's like, something's not right. It just doesn't feel right. So we go to the doctor, and they do an ultrasound and no heartbeat. So 10 weeks into this pregnancy, our third pregnancy, we've lost another baby. Now this time she was far enough along to where she had to have a DNC, and without getting too graphic, she had to go behind closed doors, have a procedure done to remove our lifeless baby from the womb. That one hit me in a different way, because guess what we're asking God again? Why? But I'm sitting in that, the waiting room, and I'm processing like, okay, I'm 20-something years old. I don't know any medical history. I don't know my race, ethnicity, nothing. And we've lost 2 babies. And what I started doing was the enemy started attacking me and saying, it's your fault. If you wouldn't have been brought into the world, it's like the sins of your, generational curses, or if you just knew the information, like your family history, you could be saving these babies, and they're dying because of you. That's what I was internalizing, right? And I went into really a depression. I was a middle school pastor. We had about 100 middle schoolers, and that's one reason why I'm bald and fluffy today. Just to be honest with you, middle schoolers, there's a special place in heaven for people that work with middle schoolers. Can I get an amen? But I was in Tampa, Florida. We were living in this little apartment, 975 square feet. And I was sitting there working on a sermon one night, and the Holy Spirit just spoke to me in a way that I've never really experienced before, or since then. And it was almost audible to where he said, it's time. That's what I got. That's all I got. And I'm like, Lord, you're going to have to give me more than that, right? So I just started praying, kind of fasting for 3-4 days. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it's time to look for your mom. And I'm like, Lord, I'm 27 years old. I've got a mom, Joyce Holland. I've got a dad, Paul Holland, right? They love me. I love them. What are you talking about? And then I'm thinking, how many times in my life over 27 years I thought about my birth mom and where she's at and why she didn't want her son. And I mean, there were so many times where I was this close to saying, like, okay, I'm going to look for her. But then, well, what if she has a family, right? I don't want to mess that up. Do I really need to meet her? But see, when God says it's time, it's time. And sometimes it's frustrating for us because we don't like to wait. But at 27 years old, he said it's time. So I remember that gift I was given as an 8-year-old child back in the day. I dug that out of a box. It was that 3-ring binder that had 8 pages of typewriter paperwork in it. And I started, I was like, okay, where can I go? I'm like, Google's a good spot, right? There's some good stuff on Google every once in a while. So I open up these 8 pages of typewriter paperwork, and I start doing name searches on Google. The first day I found actually an article that was scanned into on the web. It was a wedding invitation, and it gave me a few more pieces that I didn't have on some family names and stuff like that. And actually, I didn't realize it, but it was my aunt. Okay, it was from her wedding from 1982, the year I was born. And then on day 3, I came across a website for this man named Steve Holt. Now, Holt's my birth name. So I'm like, okay. Now, here's the thing, I got to tell you, Steve Holt is a magician and ventriloquist from Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is a weird cat, okay? He is sawing people in half, right? He's got videos to prove it. And I'm like, not today, Satan. Right, and then it gets even more weird. He's talking with these dummies, right? These wooden puppets, and their eyes move. They ain't supposed to be moving, right? And I'm just saying, I didn't really want to dig into this man's website, but something just in here, the Spirit just said, keep looking. So I go on his bio on the website. I click on the bio, and then I start reading his family history, and I'm just going to speed this up. Every single name on my paperwork from 1982 is listed in his bio. And my birth mom's name was Glenda Sue Holt, and he says in his bio that Glenda Sue Holt was his baby sister. So I'm like, okay, I'll send him an email. So I'm like, I think I might be your long-lost nephew. Send. So I sent it to him, right? Because, I mean, look, this guy could have been an axe murderer, or, you don't know, right? I didn't want to give him too much information. So I sent him this email, and then literally, now his wife, Vicky, actually, she's the co-author on my book. She's a children's author, and you're going to get a kick out of this. She's actually a clown, literally. So you got a magician and ventriloquist and married a clown. So it's just, you can't make this stuff up, people. So, and they're such sweet people, godly people. My Uncle Steve and I have been able to do ministry together. He does like Awana programs and things like that. does birthday. He made his living literally traveling all over the world in the circus and doing like Harry Houdini escapes. And he's a very interesting guy. But his wife Vicky said he reads that email and literally passes out, falls out on the floor. And once he comes to, long story short, about 2 months go by, and I'm flying from Tampa, Florida to Spartanburg, South Carolina to meet my birth uncle I didn't know existed, and he didn't know I existed for 27 years. And you talk about two grown men weeping and hugging and it not being really weird, but just like ugly crying, you know what I'm saying? But it was beautiful at the same time. And then we spent 2 days together just kind of swapping stories. And what he told me was, he said there was 6 of them, so he's one of 6 siblings, and all of them except for him had some type of mental handicap. So there were 3 girls and 3 boys. My mom was the baby of the whole family, and her 2 sisters and she were about a mental capacity of an 11-year-old, okay? So then he tells me we got thrown into orphanages, and some of us were in foster care, and not many I think my Uncle Steve was the only one that was adopted, and he wasn't adopted till he was 50-something, which was a whole other story. They honored him and adopted him later in life. But he said that my mom was 18 and kind of, how foster care works, you kind of get too old and you're out of the system, and then what? She gets thrown into a state mental facility. And while she was there, they set her up with this little work program, right, just to give her a sense of worth and value. And one evening when she was walking back from the job, she was raped by 5 men. And nobody knew it because she's 18, but she's 11-year-old here, and she didn't want anybody. That's not something you go around talking about. So it was a few months later they found out, this state-ran facility found out that she was pregnant. And so let's think about this. State-ran facility, state-funded, no family, no job, no resources. What do you think they're telling her your only option is? Abortion, right? I mean, statistically, that's the right thing to do, right? She didn't think that. 11-year-old. What's our excuse? 11-year-old mentally or 18-year-old, 11-year-old mind woman said, that child that's inside of me is worth fighting for. She literally carried me homeless majority of the pregnancy. The last time my uncle had ever thought about me, or thought about being able to put his hands on me, whatever, was I was in the womb. She came to his house looking for help when she ran away from that facility, and they were separated for 10 years. So he never knew what happened to the baby she was carrying because she was there for a week and then disappeared for 10 years. So what I was able to tell him while we were talking, I was like, I don't know how she made it to this place, but she made it to Chattanooga, Tennessee, wound up in a women's shelter, and I think a lot like Options, that had resources and things to help her. But there was also a pattern with her, as you see her story, where she would run away anytime anybody gets close. Because you got to think about how many times you think people told her that I care and I love you, and then they didn't. So she ran away, and by the end of the pregnancy, she's homeless, living in a cardboard box behind an old grocery store called Pickett's Grocery in a little town outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee called Whitwell. If you're from there, they say Whitwell. Don't ask me how you spell it, but it's the town I grew up in. There just happened to be a 16-year-old boy one day skipping school and came around the back of this store and saw a box move. And he flips the box back, and it's this 18-year-old, 9-month pregnant woman. So this 16-year-old boy loads this woman up, or actually picks her up. They walk to his home, and he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, look what I found. Can we keep it?" Now, a 16-year-old man comes home with an 18-year-old woman, 9 months pregnant. As a parent, you're like, "What did you do?" It's like, no, I found it behind the store at Pickett's Grocery. Can we keep it? We got to laugh because we're going to be crying here in a minute. So this family said, you know what? Sure. For 2 weeks, they cared for us, got us to the hospital, and then she gives birth to this little bouncing baby boy that she named Steventhen William Holt. All right? Stephen was my uncle, who I'm talking about, and William was her dad, my grandfather. She wanted me to have both names. So the way she said it audibly is, I want him to be named Stephen, then William. But whoever heard the name and the way she speaks, they put it all together. So that's why you have Steventhen, okay? It's easy marketing. I'm the only one in the world. Google it, right? So I'm finding all this out as a 27-year-old man. And that's awesome, right? That's great. Right, but by the way, the Holland family took me in as that 7-day-old, right? That 16-year-old boy waited for his family to leave the house because I was on the same bottle of formula I left the hospital with. I was about to, very malnutrition. And he thought, we got to save this kid. So he loaded us up, and he didn't have his driver's license. He drove to Human Services and dropped me off. And I went into the Holland family as a foster child. By the way, they had a miscarriage of a 22-week-old little boy 2 years before that, and God used that brokenness to open up their home to start foster parenting. There's power in brokenness. Sometimes we don't see. So that's great, right? Powerful. But it's not over. My uncle looks at me after a long, dramatic pause, and I'm like, this is weird. He said, I want to tell you something. He said, your mom, my baby sister's alive. She's 5 hours south of where we stand right now. And he asked me this, do you want to meet her? You remember what the Holy Spirit spoke to me a few months earlier? It's time. So I said, Uncle, it's time. He made me wait a whole, 20 or overnight. I didn't sleep at all. We drove down. She was living in a mental facility where you had like common area in the middle. You had men on one side, women on the other. My uncle did a magic show for the residents, right? So we had planned to go back to her room and do this private meet and greet because we didn't know she's 46, but she's only 11 here. So we didn't know what would happen, if she would freak out, if it'd just be too much. We didn't want to embarrass her. But God just took over. There just happened to be a video camera rolling when he was doing his magic show for these residents. And God just, I'll tell you what. I just want to give you an opportunity tonight to meet my hero, Mama Glenda.
I love my sunshine, and I love my life, and I love all of y'all, and never forget me. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed our magic show and our song and dance. All right.
We got a song.
And Stephen's going to sing for us.
I got a song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved.
Oh, it's like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
I want to show y'all how good God is. Glenda, you stay right here. Come here. I wasn't going to do it this way, but we are. Glenda Sue. You know I love you.
I love you.
You have been through a whole lot. And you've been the best girl you could be for 46 years.
Yes, sir.
And you had a little boy when you were about 18. And you missed that little boy.
Yes, sir.
His name was Steventhen William, but he has a different last name. The family that you gave him to take care of him, their last name was Holland. So his name is Steventhen William Holland. And this is him.
I love you, my son. I miss you so bad.
This is your boy.
He's ready to talk, son. I love you.
He's a good boy. Let me.
I'm your real mama.
You are his real mama.
I love you, mama.
And you've been the best mama you could be to me.
I'm so happy you made the choice that you did. I love you too. Yes, he does.
We have pictures for you. He brought pictures for you. He has made a scrapbook for you. And he has, in the scrapbook, he has pictures of him. Remember the picture you carried of the little boy? You thought was your son, but wasn't really your son. But now you have real baby pictures of him. And you have pictures of the Holland family, Mr. and Miss Holland, that raised him. He has a lot of family. And they love you. They've always loved you.
Son, I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I love you deeply in my heart. And I want to say I'm glad that you're here today. And Mama loves you, and I have from this first time that you was in my belly. I sang to you, I read nursery rhymes to you, I remember all that. And this is your mama right here, and I love you, my son. And I want to show you something that I've learned. I love Jesus, and I want you to know that I love my family. And I know now I have a real big family that I can look forward to seeing. I love you.
My hero. There's just something that happens, a shift in the room where it's not about me anymore. It's about her. You know, yes, the objective that we have at Options is to save babies, right? But we have to love the moms, right? And you've heard that. You've heard that in the client testimony, right, as we shared about that. You know, that love that you're pouring out on mom to choose life. And that's what we're fighting for, right? I hope and pray that, you know, again, I said from the beginning that my story, I'm honored to share my story, but I'm tying it back to the amazing work that's happening right here in your community. That because of this work and because of the fight that we have, I hope, you know, my prayer is there's more Steventhen stories to come, right? I'm a representation of, when you look at society, literally my story, my life, for, you know, abortion to be justified, you could check every single box. Mentally challenged, rape baby, right? The list goes on. But God has a bigger plan. And I'm going to ask you again, I asked you earlier, is it worth the fight? Because if it is, again, Sir Edmund Burke says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I had a birth mom that fought for me, or I wouldn't be here today. I have 3 beautiful daughters. She has 3 beautiful granddaughters that they call her Gigi. Now, here's the sad part. I mean, yes, I'm thankful for that, but my mom went to be with Jesus, who she says she loves, by the way. I'll make it through that whole video until she says I love Jesus, because that's the hope. She passed away on Thanksgiving night, 2020. She choked on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a state mental hospital that she had been in for a while. Now, it breaks my heart. And I'm asking God, what? Why? But then I'm sharing our story all over the country, and I'm connecting with a lot of people God's blessed me to connect with. And I'm getting messages from people talking about how much my mom, the mentally challenged woman that only functions 11-year-old, that the world would say has no worth and no value, some people. And they're telling me that your mom has changed my life forever by the decision that she made to choose life. And she's not only your hero, she's mine. And then I'm looking at, God is too big. He loves all of us. We all have purpose. And these moms and these babies that come through these doors have purpose. And these funds that we're about to raise, and we're about to raise a lot of it, I'm claiming it because I think we serve a huge God and a big God. I was talking to Paul over lunch and just some meetings today, and I said, man, what do you need? Like what if money wasn't an issue, what do you need to make sure that this work, this life-affirming, life-saving work can continue on? And he said, we need $200,000. Okay? Now listen, I did some research. I'm a numbers guy. So my goal, I'm telling you, $200,000. By the way, just so y'all know, in Missouri, you have a 70% right tax credit for anything given over $100 is what I was told. Am I right with that? Okay, just saying. I think a little carrot here for you. So we have about 200 people in the room tonight. So if we all could give $1,000 one-time gift, we could reach that $200,000. Now listen, you're like, Steventhen, I can't do that. Okay, let me give you another one. 200 people in the room tonight giving $83.33 on average, right, of monthly support, which, by the way, I run a nonprofit, y'all. You know how important monthly support is? To know that it's coming every month, right? It's so important. I call it the lifeblood of any nonprofit is monthly support. So if you're not somebody who's made that choice, I just want you to pray about it. Could we as a family, could we do monthly support as well as do a one-time gift tonight? Now, some of you say, like, I can't do $83.33, right? Let me give you another one. And this is something I would say this. Like, if you can't do $83, let's think about giving $20.83. Now, again, you don't have to do the cents, but that's the math. If there were 4 people doing $20.83, that would equal that one person giving $83.33. Y'all with me? I give you too many numbers? So if you were one of those 4 and you went and found 3 family members or friends, right, to give $20.83, then guess what? $200,000 over a year. So I was doing some digging. You know how many people are in your area right here that option serves? 25,000. So if we did the 4 people giving $20.83, that would only take 600 people. You think it's doable? I do. So what I'm saying is, but I can't do it for you. So I said, if it's worth the fight, what I'm going to ask you to do is, a table host, let's get these folders out, these envelopes, and inside of there's these giving sheets, these pledge cards. And I want to encourage you while you're getting those out to fill out clearly on top. This is the moment, y'all. Remember I said, is it worth the fight? If it's worth the fight, let's get to action. So we can do a one-time gift tonight, which is in that middle section. There's some numbers and different things given. We can take card, check, cash, online giving, which is at the bottom there, supportlife573.com. And then also, like I said, I really want you guys to pray about becoming a monthly supporter. Because, again, that is the lifeblood of any nonprofit, including Options for Women. And here's what I want to do. While you are doing that, if I can get through this, I want to leave you a gift tonight. And I want to sing you a song that I actually wrote for my mom. I wrote it a year before she died, not knowing that she was going to die. And it's called You Are Not Alone. And this is my gift to you. She's 18 and all alone, just trying to make her way back home. It's when they came and stole her innocence. Now here she is expecting child, thinking it could be a while before she holds her baby in her arms. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are not alone. We believe, child, you are not alone. He will hold you in his arms. He will hold you in his arms. So through the pain and the tears, she conquered all her fears, and she stood strong against all odds. While others stood amazed in awe, she defeated all the odds as she chose life for her baby boy. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are not alone. We believe, child, you are not alone. He will hold you in his arms. He will hold you in his arms. Now maybe you can't see it or even believe that He is working all things for your good. Now maybe you can't see it or even believe that He is working all things for your good. He is working all things for your good. Oh yes, He is. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are not alone. We believe, child, you are not alone. He will hold you in His arms. He will hold you in His arms. Thank you.